Good morning, everyone. I'm back, and in the background you hear my hubby doing the little stir sticks. He has to put them in little baggies, so he's busy now. I want to thank all the sponsors of this month, January 2019. These are the sponsors. Thank you very much. If you have sponsored, you're not on the list, you know the drill. Just send me an email and I'll put you on. Now, I had a couple of questions. First one was glitter. Now, as you can see, this is my glitter stash. It's a lot of glitter, but every time I see some, I just, buy them because they are so really cheap. Now, these are from wish.com. They're really for nails, so if you're looking for nice little glitters, go to the nail department and you will find a lot of glitter for nails. This one is really holographic type of stuff. And they have a lot of different sorts, colors, sizes, because as you can see, these are much thicker. This is what I put through the resin. Again, this is nail glitter. Here is something that is a little bit smaller, but also really large. Then really big ones, see that? They are really big. Now, the glitter I use a lot is this one. This is the finest glitter I've ever found. But the problem is they don't sell them anymore, so I'm very careful. Well, there's still a lot in there. So, but I am careful to not to do too much of that or not to spill it. Now, this one I used yesterday. And someone asked me about it, so this is the name. There you go. And the website is, well, the same as the name, www. Then you put that in, KNORR, Prandtl, double L, and then it's .com. I think it's made in Germany, not sure, but I see something that says Germany. Now, this one is the same. This is really holographic glitter. As you can see, it has the same label. This one is the same. So I use that brand a lot because here is a beautiful blue. And it's called Prandtl. Now, this is another one I really like, but it's almost empty. It's up to here. And you can't see it anymore. I went looking for the for this type of glitter, but you have to buy something like 240 of these, and I'm not gonna do that. So that's just a little bit too much. Here is another holographic art glitter. You know, just when you go to a shop and you see some and colors you really like, I just picked them up. This one is beautiful too. This is really all for in the resin. The bigger it gets, the better it is for the resin. Here's another one of those holographic ones. It has the company on it, but when you go to that company, you have to buy a big box with glue and these little tubes, and it's very expensive. But just one or two is not too bad. Now these ones, they are from wish.com. Some are from eBay. That's a lot of glitter and a lot of colors. And if you just look on eBay or Wish, you'll find them. Okay, guys? Thanks. Now, the thing I was talking about yesterday was this. I don't know, if you're on Pinterest, you will occasionally see this come by. Because it's, a lot of people sort of like it. They like the look of it. And what it is this is an old road map that they put some color on. They colored it, but you can still see the road map. And then they made those holes into it, and then they just layer up the pieces so that you have the big holes on top and you can look straight through it, and you see little holes down there. And a lot of people do this by burning it into the paper, which is very difficult to do because it has to be very controlled. Some people, I think they just do it by hand with some sort of a blade. But what you can also do is buy these. This one is for the little ones, as you can see. You just turn off the top and you can choose the one you want. There's a big one. I already tested it in watercolor paper. And then you have to push something in the back to push out those little things. But you get the idea, right? Let's see if I got my little... Where are my little toothpickies? Oh, there you are. Okay, toothpick. And here you can just push them out. See that? They all popped out. This one too. Only did this one once. As you can see, there it is. You can just take it out. And that one's still full. But you'll have to push them out, I'm guessing. That one's empty too. There are a lot of those. Okay. Well, you see them all popping out. So these are really small ones. And this is the bigger ones. It's really sharp, as you can see. And you just hit it with a hammer. And then you have your little circle. But of course, I'll get the other one. Of course, you need some bigger holes. So I have another set. And this one goes, as you can see, and this wasn't even that expensive, but you'll have to whack it really hard for one of these big babies. This is 1/3/8 of an inch, or for the European people, it's 35 millimeters. So that's what you put on there, and it really stinks like some sort of oily stuff. But as you can see, a lot of sizes, and the smallest one is 5 millimeters, and then I can use the other one, which goes down to 2 millimeters. So I have the whole range, and if I want them even bigger, I can put them under the scan and cut, and that will cut it out. So that's how I'm going to make it. I'm thinking of first doing one on watercolor paper, but eventually I might want to try some on Yupo. I know there are some artists that do it on Yupo, and that's also really nice to look at. Okay, that's that. If you go to Pinterest and you find that one, then if you click on it and you scroll down, you'll see a lot more. There are a lot of people doing that nowadays. When I started on Pinterest, only a couple, but right now a lot of people. Okay, now I had another question about brushes. Let me get them. Now, watercolor brushes. If you're doing watercolor, there are a couple of things that are important. The water you're using, the paper you're using, the watercolor you're using, and the brushes. And of course, something that you can manipulate your paint with. Let me sit down here. That also is pretty important. Now, you have these really big brushes, and they are Chinese brushes. Now, if you want to do abstract stuff, I think this is the best thing to have, because they are really, really big. And as you can see, when they're wet, they go back into their original model. They're a little pointy. So let me get a color that you can really see. This is the Vallejo watercolor, but you can do this with every watercolor you have. Now, this is water, what I'm putting on, and just tap water, and I'm soaking up my paint. And then, as you can see, you can just put it down, and it goes dry pretty fast. But you can load it up with a lot of water. Oops, like this. And as you can see, then it makes a whole different wash. So you can do it with almost no paint and water in the brush. You can do it dry, or you can do it with a fully loaded brush. I'm not too fond of these. These are, I don't know, they just don't do it for me. So I'm putting that one away. This is another one, and this one is, I think they call this one a French brush. Again, you load it up, put on some color, and here you see, because I have not that much color on it, I'm just dabbing it from what went off the side, and it works, but it's more for these big washes. This is another one of those Chinese brushes. I just, you know, when I see a brush, I really want to try it, and it wasn't all that. Okay, the next thing you can work with is these bamboo sticks. They are a lot of fun also. You can use both sides, but really this is the side the one with the little hole in it, that's the one you want to use. Let's see if I can stick it in here. No, I don't think so. Well, a little bit I can. See that? You can almost draw with it like a fountain pen, I guess. Now, if you do that in your half wet paint, as you can see, it spreads out. If you do it on dry paper, as here, you see that you can do really thin lines with it. And if you don't dab it enough, you'll see that it slowly fades into a thin line also, but it will go fade off into the background. That's 2. Now it's running out of paint, as you can see. And there we go. So that's kind of what you can do with the bamboo stick. What I like to use is these brushes. This is a really old one. It's a number 8. The sizes are important too. I would go for a 12, an 8, then maybe 6, 4, and a 2. Unless you're doing really realistic work where you have to have a really tiny brush. They go down to 0, and then you think, well, that is small. But if you really want small, you can go to 00, 000. They are really tiny brushes. And I'm going over these stripes. These are the ones I really like. And all they really need is for you to get used to the tip. So anyone that says, I'm having trouble with watercolors, what you should be doing is just doing pages like this. And it doesn't have to be on really expensive paper, because what you're really doing is only looking to see what your brush is doing, how it loads, and by how it loads I mean by how it picks up moisture, and after a while you will be fully adjusted to exactly what it can do, and you know exactly when you have to load up your brush again. Now the part where people say, you know, I can't, look at that, how pretty that that went really pretty. People say, you know, I can't get used to it. Well, it's not only about how you use your color, it's also about if you want to do landscape paintings, I think you will have to have a little bit of basic knowledge of how to paint a tree, because what they usually do when they paint a tree, I'll get a green, let's see. Okay, I hope this one is light enough. What they usually do when they want to paint a tree is they just dab it around like that, so that's your tree. It's really easy. And then you let that dry. And I'm looking for my other one. So that's your basic first setup. Then we're going to clean off the brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze the brush so that there's almost no moisture in it. And then we go for the darker green. And you dab in there. Now this is more blue than green. But as you can see, it's creating the illusion of shadow in the leaves. So you have the lighter green should be like where the most sun hits it, and then you have these darker spots. Now there's a lot of people online that show you exactly how to do that. I'm just doing it real fast to give you an idea of how to build up a tree. Now the first layer you put down is the light one, and then you build it up with darker layers, and then it has the illusion as if you're looking into a tree, and it has all these beautiful shadows. Now let's see what this is. I'm not sure what this is, where I got this one. I'm looking for a nice brown one. Well, we'll do a light gray one, that's okay. So I'm putting it in there. And of course this is still wet, but what you should be doing is letting this dry, totally dry, and then you can come in with a really thin brush and you can sort of put in like little sticky things, like you're looking through it and it's a tree and you can see some branches. That's really all there is to it. But practice makes perfect, and the longer you work on it, the better it'll look. Now, as you can see there, see, that's what I really like, this bit here. This is okay too, but I really like that. And the color almost reminds me of shibori, you know, the way they paint the fabric in Japan. I think it's Japan, I'm not sure. But you can always put it in the comments when I've got something wrong, right? And you usually do. Okay, well, as you can see, this here, that turned out really nice. You can see how when you come back a second time or a third time, and the beautiful things you can create. And this is more effects that I'm talking about. So now with only clear water, I'm dabbing again. Just in there. And then when this dries, you'll see that it again has pushed away. I can see it happening right now because I have the monitor in front of me, but as you can see, it's pushing away the color to the edges, and that makes such a beautiful, see that? And just having a whole page with this would be really pretty. I'm pretty sure about that. And then if you were to take the colors and mix the colors, that would be really pretty. And afterwards you could come in and do some, I don't know, amazing stuff with a pen, I guess. Okay, so that's one thing. And what I've been working with is tap water, like I said. Now I'll put this one away. And where did I put the other one? Oh, here it is. The paper I'm working on is this. I'll show it again. This is the paper. And you can always put the video on pause to write down something you don't want to miss. Now, I'll show you the difference between tap water and this water here, which I prepared. This is a salt water. I just put some salt in boiling water, stirred it a lot, and then we have salt water. Now I'm gonna make the paper wet with this. And what I really like is my lovely turquoise. So I'm gonna put some turquoise down there. Now, if I put this on here, look what happens. See it spreading? It's spreading like crazy. And I'll give you a really good close-up of how it's spreading. And that's because this is salt water, because salt water sort of there's a different tension in salt water, and it makes it really feather out like crazy. As you can see, really nice. There you go. See that? Now let me clean the brush. And down here I'll just do the normal tap water. And I'm going to put I think there's a little bit of contamination now because I put my brush in there, but okay, we'll see. And as you can see, it's much smaller, and the hairs coming off it are different. And that's, you can tap it a lot. You can get this effect, but you'll have to keep on tapping it and really load it up with a lot of paint. See that? That's pretty. Now we'll do it the other way around again. And put the paint on the table. There you go. Now watch. This spreads out just differently. And if you do this test at home, you will absolutely see how different these colors react. And this goes for all types of watercolor. It's not only the brand I'm using. It goes for every single watercolor we have. It's the water that gives it the movement. Also, we have something that is called oxgall. I'm not sure if I can get that. Oxgall. Well, you'll just have to believe me. The oxgall is also used for marbling paper, and it makes things spread out fast too. So, but it's expensive, and not all art stores sell it. But I think, you know, just a little dishwash soap. I'll show you the dishwash soap. Okie dokie, dishwash soap. Oops, the other one. And we're gonna get a little bit of dishwash soap. You can already see it. Goes a little bubbly. And we're gonna put the brush in the paint. And we're gonna put it on. And as you can see, it spreads out too, but a little bit different than the sea salt water. This has sort of the same thing to it. It smells better too. But as you can see how it feathers out. Now, of course, there are a lot of people that work dry. So then they just use it here and they start painting here. That's the dry version, and you can see how much difference there is. Even if I did it like this, it's not going to feather out like that because it has nowhere to go. Paint has to have a moisture to travel. It will just stay like that. While here it's going to go all over the place. This is really pretty too. Let's do a little bit more here. As long as your paper is still a little moist, you can get these lovely patterns. There we go. Now, after you put paint on your page, your paper, there's another thing that you can do. You can manipulate that paint. So I'm going to soak up a lot of paint. I'm going to put it on here like that. What you can do is use cotton tips like that, and you can just go through your paint like this, and you can make effects that you like, but just dab it up. And you can do it with a cotton ball if you want to make clouds in the sky. You can do all kinds of cute little things with picking up the paint, as you can see. The more you pick up, the more you see the lighter color. Let's see if I got something darker, if I can show you. I'm making quite a mess on my table, but that doesn't matter. Okay, we're gonna pick that up. Ooh, that's not very dark, is it? Okay, let's do it here. It's a kind of nice color, brown. Now, you can just pick it up. As you can see there, how that works. Now, a lot of people do that for skies. So they paint the part where the sky is with a beautiful blue. Then they come in with their cotton balls and they just dab it, and that gives the illusion of clouds. So that's also really nice to do. Now, another thing you can do, because we're going to take this away, we're going to maybe start new. That might be better. So putting that, you put a wash on your paper, and then you get some salt, and this is really coarse salt, and you just put it on there like that. I'm using Himalaya salt. This is the Dutch word for salt. It's zout. Zout. Yes, you learned a new word. So you just leave that on there, and when it's dry you can brush it off, and it will give those really beautiful effects too. And there are so many things that you can put on there. You can put on rice, you can put on anything, wood chips, anything that soaks up a little bit of that paint. As you can see, I'm not sure, yeah, you can. This on top here hasn't touched the paint, but here on the side it has touched. And I'd like to get you in a little bit closer. There you go. So this here hasn't touched the paint. As you can see, it's still just salt. And down here, you can see that the salt is turning blue because it's soaking up a lot of that moisture. And when this is ready, when you take it off, it will leave those marks. So a lot of people absolutely like the way that looks. Now going back to the one I did before, see that where I put only clear water on top and it gives that lovely effect? And I like that effect. I like that one. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. The whole thing is really just, you know, play with the paint, play with the water, mix up water like, I don't know. And you don't have to have the really, really expensive watercolors. The really expensive ones are like Daniel Smith in the tubes. Some of those tubes are, I don't know, they go to 11, 12 euros here in Europe. So that's one color, one little tiny tube. And if you're a professional and you're selling your stuff, I say go for it. I would absolutely do that. But for the people who just want to experience the colors and see how colors mingle with each other, and people trying to do effects, I think, you know, any watercolor will do. Even the Derwent watercolor pencils, they are really cool too. I don't have them here. No, I don't. Or I would have shown them to you, but then again, I don't want to show you because they are really expensive, and you really don't want to start with 12 pencils. You want the whole box. If you're like me, I want all the colors. So that was a pretty expensive thing I bought. But on the other hand, you'll be using them for years and years and years, because I've had that box, I think, for about 8 years now. And I use them frequently, and you know, they are just top of the notch for watercolor pencils. It is nice to be able to come back into something like this and say that this is your little pattern, and then put something in here with watercolor pencils, and then it just adds to what you're trying to do. Okay, people, I should have showed you something. I did a portrait once with watercolor of my hubby. Yeah, let's do that. I'll be back in a flash. Okay, I'm doing this out of my hand, so it's going to be a little swabby. But as you can see, when I take off this, let's see if you can get in really close. Can you see the patterns that the salt made? So that's kind of what you get when you put salt on there. If you put on bigger pieces of salt, sometimes it'll give you a little bit of a different effect, but that's what you can do with salt. Now, this is the big one. This one I did, well, I think about 25 to 30 years ago. And as you can see, there's my little signature, my AR. And this is my husband when he was a lot younger, and he had long hair and really big glasses. So this is sort of just a really quick one. I think it took about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, and I did it first with normal watercolor, and then later with a little bit of a pencil. I went through it. But that's my husband. There he is. So guys, there's my studio. It's nice and sunny outside. Got everything drying there on the table. Then my paintings that I did yesterday, I'll show them to you. They are over here. There they are. That's the one I did yesterday. Didn't work on the air bubbles, but I'll do that when it's dry. And the ones those are the little squishy things. As you can see, they're drying nicely. This one with the cells in it. And of course, that painting with the earthy colors, that's drying nicely. And of course, my whole studio is covered with paintings. That's the Vallejo watercolor. There's some of my glass work, more paintings, the table. Oh, now you can see the intensity of those colors. This is much better. See, when the light hits it, it sort of washes the colors out. But as you can see here, you can see how intense these colors are. Really beautiful patterns. And there's a lot of mess. And there I have my drying rack with 6 million paintings on them, which I still have to varnish. I'm really bad in varnishing. And that's my paint studio. That's where I mix my paints. As you can see, lots and lots of paint and a lot of canvases. So that's where I sit, and that's where I do all the mixing. Okay guys, this is going to be a long video again, but I know that you don't mind because you can all find the fast forward button, right? Okay, love you all to pieces. See you later.